Hey everyone, it's Max over here. It's my first video on YouTube ever. It's a very simple video. Basically I just wanted to show landscape decal uh, displacement or stamp displacement or landscape stamp, however you want to call that. I don't think there's actually a name for this. Never seen it. But basically, it's this. So I'm using nanite tessellation on the landscape. Sorry, for the texture on the landscape, and this, which is a spline casting to the RVT. So I'm not going to go in depth into how RVT are set it up. I might do another one if anyone asks me to set up RVT. So I'm using 5.7, by the way, just so you know, 5.7.2. But yeah, so I'm going to go over how my landscape material is set up. It is very simple. I have a way much more complex one. I was just testing stuff. And I'm also going to go over the spline material. So let's go. So basically there's two different materials. So there's the landscape. So imagine that this is all your landscape material and you're just plugging everything into the RVT. So that's super simple. The world position, I don't actually need it, but it's still being there. If I ever need it, I have it. And basically, I'm separating my displacement on my landscape in three sections. So the lower section, the middle section, and the over section. So if I just show you quickly, basically my landscape displacement is divided in three. So I have from 1 to 0.66. I have 0.66 for to 0.33 and from 0.33 to 0. And this is a section used by the layer material for the landscape. So any layers are between these, and I can make my snow being this high. Let's say I have pebble over the snow, it can be this high. Let's say I have grass under the snow, it can be this high. But I need to make sure my displacement works and are correctly set it up to match where they should be in the layer in the center over here. So this section over here would be like stamps. Well, not stamps, but carving in the landscape. So let's say you want to add a hole, or I don't know, anything. Honestly, I could even just separate in two, because technically when you have a hole in the landscape, it's not really going to be a hole going through the actual layers. But I decided to make it this way because if I actually wanted to add a hole in grass section stuff, I can. Let's say I want to add I want to add a I don't know, a dirt puddle or a big dirt hole. Someone that just use their shovel and dig. I can use that. And I also have this section which allows me to add extra displacement. I could also, with my material for my stamp, completely forget the separating by tree and simply like modifying the displacement directly myself. Completely viable. You can literally do whatever you want with these values. It's no big deal. But yeah, so I'm casting the RVT for the landscape, and I'm resampling those RVT related to what the material casting. So the RVT PBR and the displacement. So PBR is basically like the base color, roughness, normal. I use specular for the ambient occlusion because there's no ambient occlusion section, and I don't need specular value. Most specular value are 0.5 in the world. So I don't actually need it for my landscape material. But yeah, and so my stamp material is super easy. So it's basically a texture that I've done in Designer super quickly. It's just a carriage path with some, horse feet in the snow. I have the normal in RNG values, and I have the landscape, well, the displacement, sorry. So the height value in the blue channel, and it is working wonder. I used to have the alpha, and I just remember that I don't really need the alpha to be working with everything. My alpha is going from 0 to 1 over somewhere here, and then going to 1 all the way there, and going to 0 back. So this is just the opacity mask for where I want my decal to be projected, or my stamp. But I remembered I can just use the texture coordinate of the mesh that I'm using and sign it. So my texture is way less expensive, and this is probably way less expensive than having a whole texture doing the work of the alpha. So way better doing this. If you can utilize texture coordinate gradient at your advantage, do it, please. It's way better than having a texture or parameter 2D or whatever. Then it's way better than to have that. Anything done directly in shader is way less complicated than having to sample a texture, because it has to ask the GPU and whatever. It's just way better to do it this way. And I do the exact same thing. So I build a normal intensity, transform it, send it to the RVT. I'm not plugging any color because I'm using the color of the snow beneath it. So basically the rest of the landscape. And the material is in unlit, masked as well. The shading model is unlit. You won't ever see that material, ever. This material is simply used to draw something to the RVT, and that's it. It won't ever be seen. I can show it to you still, but it won't ever be seen at all. I can just put it to opaque, since anyway we won't see it at all. And the reason we don't see it is because it's not being rendered in the main pass. For a simple reason, you don't need to. So if I go to the landscape spline, so this is how it works. So I have my spline, and the spline places this mesh over here. So I have a 8 meters by 2 meter plane, which is UV are basically just a square. So I don't have to modify the UV in here. Because the texture is already applying to a square. So I'm stretching the texture as it should be here. The mesh is not nanite, by the way. Make sure that it's not nanite, otherwise it won't work. No collision, super easy. There's a little bit of tessellation if I go into not unlit but wireframe. So there's a little bit of tessellation so that it allows my plane to be twisted and still contains its round shape. But this plane won't ever be rendered because the planes over here. So if I just click on that, if I can click it, can I? Yeah, I can. Okay. In the RVT, the draw and main pass is at never. That doesn't mean it won't cast to the RVT. It's still going to be casting to the RVT of the landscape. It just won't ever be seen. If I put it to always, now we can see the mesh right over here being rendered. I'm sorry for the sparkle effect. That is my sparkle effect in on my landscape. And when you go to landscape mode, it makes that's just unreal. It makes a weird looking thing. But you can see the plane over here. We don't see it much because it's clamped to the landscape, but it's basically doing what it should be doing. So I've just made it so that we visualize the stamp over here. So basically it looks like that. But anyway, we won't be seeing it because, like I told you, it's at never, so we won't ever see it. And this allows me to add any new points at any point. I can take this one, drop it there. Can take this one and like bring it there. Like I can literally add points everywhere, and it will work. This works with anything. It works with spline, and it works wonder with spline. Honestly, it's the best mode I've best thing I ever been able to add for easy landscape deformation and everything. Um, but you can do it with just simple plane. You can just make yourself a blueprint with a plane that you apply a texture on it, and the texture either has just a height and normal information, or maybe it has um, an actual base color. Like, I don't know, let's say you want to add some specific roots under your trees, and you have a texture for that. Instead of doing a mesh, you can do a mesh, no big deal. But why not doing it in texture as well? Because it's going to be blended with the landscape perfectly. It's not going to be clipping. You won't even need an RVT blend on your mesh because it's just a plain casting to it. So, and it's just texture instead of a mesh. It is a little bit more heavy for sure, but the runtime virtual texture is done once at runtime, and as soon as you don't modify it during your gameplay, it won't re-render the RVT again. So it's way better this way, in my opinion. But yeah, you can do it with plane. You can do it with actual mesh. If this is what you want, I personally prefer doing it with just a simple plane, so not a 9 at 1. A plane, and if I have my texture applied to it with the displacement exactly the same way as the land stamp carve or whatever I call that, doing exactly that with a base color maybe and roughness and ambient occlusion and everything, and the displacement of course. And then you can blend it with either an alpha or a height lerp, allowing you to, like, use the bottom of the height of whatever you are using as a decal and making it as a mask. It would be like a little curvy. I have some example in my landscape material instance or path. I think it's path. For instance, no, sorry. Erosion. Let's go with like rockland decal, whatever. So this is a little different. They don't use a tiling texture. I think this one is not a tiling texture actually, like not at all. No, it's not a tiling texture. So it's like rocks and leaves and dead stuff, and there's the height as well over here. In the texture, the height actually is there. So I got my roughness. Oops, over here. I've got my this is my height, this is my ambient occlusion, and this is the Y channel of my normal. The X channel is in the alpha of the other one. The reason I'm putting Y channel, I'm splitting my normal in 2 different channels, by the way, is because the alpha channel of a BC3 is the least compressed. It's almost not compressed. You won't even see the difference, probably, honestly. I've not even been able to see the difference. And anyway, when drawing to an RVT, the texture is way less high quality. So you would probably want to put these texture in 2K or even 1K. Mine are in 2K. You could put it in 1K, like I told you. It would probably not be a big deal. I can try it with the one I've just done over here. So this one. Let's see how different. So this is 1K like that by 4K. And already it looks good. The nanite displacement doesn't allow me to change how, like, what's the quality or the amount of tessellation. I can change the quality of the RVT being drawn to the landscape. So let's say this one, instead of putting to 9, I can put it to 8. And so it will be a little bit less high quality. And the lower I put it, the least quality it is. The normal is still there, but there's still some displacement. But like I told you, nanite still makes a bunch of triangle for no reason. And I really want Unreal to fix that. Because that is absolutely atrocious. To have that amount of polygon on a landscape is nuts. There's like one for every pixel. It is so dumb. But yeah, and I don't know why these are not nanites. Like, what the hell is going on? They should be. But yeah, so like I told you, you can kind of change the quality of the displacement. You cannot change the amount of tessellation. Like, yes, you can, but it doesn't work as well as I thought it would in the landscape material. So going to the landscape material, you can go into the displacement section over here, and the displacement fade, I put 8.4. It doesn't change the amount of tessellation there is. It changes where the high quality tessellation start and when it ends. And it's not really what I would want, but whatever. But yeah, so that's my video. I hope you liked it. I hope people will try and use this technique. It's really neat for high quality landscape and being able to add details just with a texture. A simple texture allows you to have all that detail applied everywhere on your landscape, and it's probably one of my favorite technique for landscaping, adding details, adding rocks, adding path. It can work with any type of path. You can have like a stone path, a dirt path, puddles, like I said before, some roots, some rocks sticking out, some. It literally works with everything. Honestly, if you have a high, you could even drop like a metal sheet on the ground as a texture, and it will work. I don't know why you would do that. You would probably maybe want to do it in actually 3D, but if it's things like literally stuck with the landscape that isn't supposed to be moving, so like roots, rocks, or snow deformation, just stick it to the landscape and it will work. And it doesn't only work with landscape spline, it can work with any spline, PCG spline stuff that allows you to draw texture to your RVT. That is the only requirement, is that you need to be able to draw to the RVT. That's it, from these meshes. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. I hope people will learn from it and apply it to their environment, and I hope you liked it. Bye.